and I watched it sink so many of their claims. Actually, let me back up. Let me tell you what I've seen destroy claims in 15 minutes flat. I've been on both sides of the exam table. As a physician, I have conducted medical evaluations. I have filled out DBQs. I know exactly what examiners are listening for, and I know exactly what makes them check the wrong boxes. And here's what nobody tells you. The C&P exam is not about whether you have a condition. It's about what comes out of your mouth while you're describing that condition. And today, I'm going to give you the same 7 phrases that taint claims, phrases I've heard veterans say over and over, and exactly what to say instead. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly how to communicate your symptoms honestly and accurately without accidentally sabotaging yourself or stepping on your own feet. Because that's what's happening. Veterans are walking in, telling the truth, well, sort of, and then walking out with ratings that don't reflect their reality. So let's fix that. Let me give you some context on why this matters so much. The C&P examiner has one job and one job only. Document your condition so that the VA can assign a rating if you deserve it. That's it. They are not your advocate. They are not trying to help you win. They're not trying to make you lose either. They're just there to document. But here's the problem. They're documenting your words, not your medical records, not your service history, your words in that room on that day. And if your words don't match the severity of your condition, if you minimize because you're being tough, if you exaggerate because you're frustrated, if you say something that makes them question your credibility, well, that's what goes in your report. That report is what becomes your rating. Let me tell you what's actually at stake here. It's the difference between 30 and 50%. That's about $350 a month. It's the difference between 50 and 70%, an additional $500 per month. The difference between 70 and 100%. That could be well over $1,500 a month, $18,000 a year, tax-free. Now, over a lifetime, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I've seen veterans lose that money, not because they didn't deserve it, but because they said the wrong thing, or the right thing the wrong way, or they tried to be tough when they should have just been honest. Look, I get it. We're trained to suck it up, to drive on, to say, I'm good even when we're falling apart. But the C&P exam is not the place to do that. This is the one time in your life when being honest about how much you're struggling will actually help you. Let me show you what I mean. All right, so phrase number 1, and this one might surprise you a lot. It's a 10 out of 10. Now wait, before you say, but doc, my pain is a 10 out of 10 on the pain scale. Just listen to me out, all right? When you tell the examiner your pain is constantly a 10 out of 10, here's what goes through their head. Huh, really? Because 10 out of 10 is the worst pain imaginable. That's like a tiger shark eating off your leg, right? That's kidney stones while being set on fire. That's childbirth while someone's breaking your legs. If your pain was truly a 10 out of 10 right now, you wouldn't be sitting in that chair having a calm conversation with me. And then the next thought is this veteran lying? Are they exaggerating? Are they trying to game the system? Once that seed of doubt is planted in their head, everything else you say will start to get filtered through it, all right? So I had a veteran, let's call him James, who came to me after his claim was denied. He was a great guy, legitimate back injury from his service. His MRI showed herniated discs, the whole 9, right? I asked him what he told the examiner. He said, well, I told him my back is always a 10 out of 10 in pain because it feels like a 10 to me. I'm in pain every waking moment of every single day. I said, James, did you drive yourself to that appointment? He said, yeah. I said, did you walk into the building? He said, yeah. Did you sit in the chair for an hour and talk to the examiner? Yeah. That's not 10 out of 10 pain. I believe you're suffering. I believe it's severe, but 10 out of 10, you'd be in the emergency room screaming, and the examiner knows that too. His claim was denied for inconsistencies in reported symptoms, not because he was lying, because he was describing his pain in a way that didn't sound credible to the examiner. So here's what I told James to say on his rebuttal, on his appeal. And I want you to understand, don't give a single number, give them a range. Describe the variation because that's how pain actually works. Instead of saying it's a 10, say, on a good day, my pain is around a 4 or 5 out of 10. I can function, but I'm always aware of it. On a bad day, when it flares up, it's an 8 or 9 out of 10. Those are the days I can't get out of bed. I can't tie my shoes. I can't pick up my own kids, and bad days happen 2, maybe 3 times a week. Do you see the difference? That is honesty. That's believable. That's a range that reflects how chronic pain actually works. And that gives the examiner something they can document accurately. The same applies to any scale they ask you about. Depression, anxiety, sleep. Give them the range. Give them your worst days and your better days. That's credibility. Now, phrase number 2 I hear a lot is, I don't know why I'm even here. And look, I get it, I really do. You've been through the claims process. You've submitted paperwork. You've waited months, maybe years. You've been denied, appealed, denied again. And now you're sitting in the same office with some stranger who's going to ask you to relive the worst moments of your life again. It is frustrating. It is exhausting. And sometimes it feels, well, pointless. But here's what happens when you say, I don't know why I'm even here. The examiner writes down, veteran appeared annoyed and uncooperative, or veteran expressed reluctance to participate in examination, or, and this is the killer, veteran did not appear invested in accurately conveying their symptoms. And any of those notes in your file, that's a credibility problem, and credibility problems will sink your claim. Here's the reality. I talked to a veteran once who said exactly this, word for word. I don't know why I'm even here. This is a waste of my time. He wasn't trying to be difficult. He was just burned out. He'd been fighting the VA for 3 years on the same claim. He was exhausted and frustrated and just done with the whole thing. The examiner noted him as being uncooperative and dismissive. His exam was cut short. His claim was rated lower than his symptoms warranted. 3 years of fighting and a bad 15 minutes cost him everything. So even if you're frustrated, especially if you're frustrated, here's what you should say instead. Say, I appreciate the opportunity to have my condition evaluated. I want to make sure you have an accurate picture of what I'm dealing with and how it affects my life. Is that how you actually feel? Probably not, but it sets the right tone. It tells the examiner you're there to cooperate. Perception is reality. You're there to be thorough. You're taking this seriously. You can be frustrated and professional at the same time. The C&P exam isn't the place to vent about the VA's bureaucracy. Save that for your congressman. In this room, on the C&P exam day, you're focused on one thing and one thing only, accurately documenting your condition. Now, quick pause. If you're watching this because you have a C&P coming up and you want to make sure you're prepared, actually prepared with the right documentation, the right evidence, and the right language to describe your symptoms, that's exactly what we help with at Xterra Health. We can write Nexus letters, DBQs, we review your records for free, we help you understand how to communicate your condition honestly and accurately before you walk into that exam room. It's a free consultation, a free records review. If you're interested, the link's in the description below. So let's keep going. Phrase number 3 that I hear all the time is, my buddy told me to say yada yada yada, or I read online that I should mention yada yada yada, or any variation of someone coached me on what to say. Please do not do this. The second you reference what someone else told you to say, the C&P examiner's credibility radar will go haywire. They're thinking, is anything this veteran tells me actually their experience, or are they just repeating a script they found on Reddit or something they saw on YouTube? If what your buddy told you is accurate, even if what you read online is good advice, the moment you attribute it to someone else, you've made the examiner question whether your symptoms are even real. I see this a lot with younger veterans especially. They're in Facebook groups, they're on forums, they're on YouTube, they're sharing information with each other on Discord, which is great, by the way. Veterans are helping veterans. But when they walk into that C&P exam and they say things like, my buddy got 70% for this, and he told me to make sure I mention this, this, and this. Stop right there. You've just told the examiner you're trying to match your buddy's rating instead of describing your own experience. Even if your condition is identical to your buddy's, even if you're saying the exact same things he said, the framing matters. Here's the difference. Here's the bad. Saying, my friend told me to mention that I have nightmares 4 times a week. What you should say is, I have nightmares about 4 times a week. I wake up in a cold sweat, heart pounding. My wife has had to sleep in the guest room because I thrash around and once I accidentally actually hit her. Do you see the difference? It's the same information, but just completely different deliveries. One sounds coached, the other sounds like a lived experience. Your claim is about your experience, your symptoms, your life. Don't reference anyone else. Don't mention what you read or heard. Just tell your story in your words. If you've done your research, that's fantastic. Use that research to remind yourself what's important to mention. But when you're in that room, it all needs to come from you. Now, phrase number 4 is, I don't remember. Now, this one's tricky because sometimes you just generally might not remember. Memory issues are real, especially with mental things like PTSD, TBI, and other conditions. But here's the problem. If the examiner asks you about your in-service injury and you say, I don't really remember, then they ask about your current symptoms and you say, I don't really remember. Then they ask about your treatment history and then you say, I don't really remember. They're not thinking this veteran has memory problems. They begin to think this veteran is being evasive. Selective memory looks like you're hiding something, even if you're not, even if you genuinely can't recall. The pattern of I don't remember raises red flags. Here's what I want you to understand. There is a difference between not remembering and not wanting to talk about it. There is a difference between not remembering and being vague because you're uncomfortable. And the C&P examiner can usually tell the difference. So if you generally don't remember something, say something like, to the best of my recollection, and then give what you do remember. Or, I honestly can't recall the exact date, but I know it was during my second deployment sometime in the summer of 2011. Or, my memory of that event is fragmented, which is actually one of my symptoms. What I do remember is XYZ. See how that works? You're being honest about the gap while still providing what you can. And you're framing the memory issue as part of your condition, not as evasion. If your memory is affected by your condition, like TBI, PTSD, whatever it may be, say that explicitly. Say, my memory has been significantly impacted since the incident. I struggle to recall key details, and that's actually one of my main symptoms today. Now the examiner understands. Now it's documented. Now I don't remember is evidence and it's not evasion. Okay, now phrase number 5. And honestly, this is the one that breaks my heart the most. The saying, I'm fine, the it's not that bad, or I manage. How many times have you said those words? Be honest with yourself, right? To yourself, to your family, to your doctor, to yourself in the mirror. I know because I've said them, right? We're conditioned to minimize. From day one of basic training, you're taught to push through. Pain is just weakness leaving the body. Rub some dirt in it, drive on. And that mindset kept you alive. It got you through some of the worst experiences a human being can even go through. But now it's going to cost you. When you tell the C&P examiner that I'm fine or it's not that bad, what they will write that down. They write veteran reports condition is manageable, or they'll write veteran denies significant impairment, or they may even write veteran state symptoms are not that bad. And then you get 10% rating for something that's actually destroying your life because you couldn't bring yourself to admit how bad it really is. I talked to a Marine, 20 years of service, right? 3 combat deployments, the whole thing, right?
Are you looking for the most affordable way to add electric cooling and heating to your older home? If that's the case, then you're going to want to take a look at this new system that we just finished unboxing called a ductless mini split. Not only can it keep your home nice and cool in up to 120-degree weather, but it also can keep your home warm all the way down to negative 20 degrees. But the benefits, they don't stop there because it also happens to be the most efficient system on the market, and you're going to be able to mount it in almost any place or any space. And right now, as we head into summer, we have a special going on where we can get you a brand new mini split for $0 down and 0% interest long-term financing. So you can spread out the cost of that system over time and not pay a penny in interest. Click the link below if you'd like a little more information, and we'll text you over all the details.
I tried a ton of AI work tools. Then I tried Monday.com. Game over. Monday.com is super easy to use and knows how to do AI right. I use it for insights and action suggestions constantly, especially on those back-to-back meeting days. And my team used Monday Sidekick to work up all kinds of marketing content for the different platforms. So stuff that takes my team hours is now done before they even open their laptop. All these AI features are built directly into Monday.com and actually use our real data. With Monday.com, AI isn't some over-promising future. It's here. It just
built like a brick house, the kind of guy who looks like he could walk through walls. He came to me after getting 30% for PTSD. 30%. I asked him what he told the examiner. He said, I told them I have some bad days, but I pushed through. I told them I was managing. I said, tell me about your bad days. He's quiet for about a second, and then he said, well, sometimes I sit in my truck in the garage for an hour because I can't bring myself to go inside and face my family. And sometimes I wake up so angry I don't trust myself around my own kids. Sometimes I will drink until I black out because it's the only way I can sleep. I said, did you tell the examiner any of that? He told me, no, that's personal. That's not personal. That is evidence. That's exactly what the VA needs to hear to rate your condition accurately. I'm not asking you to lie. I'm not asking you to exaggerate. I'm not asking you to perform. I'm asking you to be honest about your worst days. Instead of I'm fine, say I have good days and I have bad days. On good days, I can function. I can go to work. I interact with my family. I appear normal to most people. But on my bad days, and I have several a week, I can barely get out of bed. I self-isolate. I snap at everyone around me. I've thought about whether my family would be better off without me. That's not weakness. That's accuracy. The C&P exam is the one place where telling the truth about your struggle actually helps you. So don't waste it by pretending you're okay when you're actually not. Now, phrase number 6, I can still work just fine. This is what I call the Iron Man alert, and it can absolutely tank your rating. Here's what you need to understand. The VA rating criteria are built around occupational and social impairment. That means, how does your condition affect your ability to work and maintain relationships? If you tell that C&P examiner you're working fine, with no problems, no limitations, no missed days, they're going to rate you like someone with no occupational impairment, which means a lower rating, maybe significantly lower. A lot of veterans say, I can still work because they are working. They're showing up every day. They're paying their bills. They're holding it together for themselves and their family. But holding it together and working just fine are very different things. The question to ask yourself is, how many days have you called in sick because you couldn't face going in? How often do you have to take breaks because of pain, fatigue, anxiety, or flashbacks? Have you had to change jobs or reduce your hours because of your condition? Do you need accommodations your employer doesn't know about, like sitting instead of standing, taking more breaks, avoiding certain tasks? How does your condition affect your concentration, your memory, your interactions with coworkers? Have you been written up, passed over for promotion, or had conflicts at work because of your symptoms? If the answer to any of those is yes, you're not working just fine. So what to say instead is, I'm currently employed, but it's a struggle. I've missed about 15 days in the past year because of flare-ups. I have trouble concentrating, and I've made mistakes that almost cost me my job. I've had to take frequent breaks because I can't sit or stand for long periods. My boss has talked to me twice about my performance, and I'm worried I'm gonna lose my job. Or you could say something like, I'm not working right now. I had to leave my last job because I couldn't keep up with the physical demands. I've applied for other positions, but between my pain and my mental health, I don't know if I can hold down a regular job anymore. The C&P examiner needs to understand the real impact on your work life. And if you're barely hanging on, you need to say that. Barely hanging on is not the same as working just fine. Now, last one, phrase number 7, I don't take medication. Now, there are a lot of legitimate reasons not to take medications. Side effects, allergies, personal preference, previous bad experiences, wanting to manage your condition naturally. They are all valid points. But here's what the C&P examiner might hear if you just say, I don't take medication. That they hear that the condition must not be severe enough to require treatment. The VA often looks at treatment as an indicator of severity. Are you seeing medical providers? Are you on medication? Are you doing therapy? Are you actively managing this condition? If you're not doing any of those things, it can look, rightly or wrongly, like your condition isn't that serious. Even if it is that serious, even if you're suffering every day. Listen, I worked with a veteran who had severe anxiety, like couldn't leave his house some days severe, but he refused medication because the first pill they gave him made him feel like a zombie. Fair enough, right? That's a legitimate reason. But when the examiner asked about his treatment, all he said was, I don't take anything. And he got rated at 10%. He didn't explain the why. He didn't describe what he does do to manage it. He just said, I don't take medication, and then moved on. And the examiner had no context, so they assumed the condition was just mild at best. So what you should say instead is something like, I don't currently take any medication for this condition, and here's why. I tried Prozac in 2018 and the side effects were unbearable. I was lethargic, I gained 30 pounds, I couldn't function. My doctor and I decided to try other approaches. I go to therapy twice a month. I use breathing exercises. I limit my alcohol intake. I avoid triggers when I can. But even with all of that, I still struggle daily. I still have panic attacks. I still have days where I can't leave my house. Do you see the difference? You're not just saying, I don't take medication. You're now explaining why, what you do instead, and making clear that despite your best efforts, you are still struggling. Now, if you're not in treatment at all, that's okay too, but explain why. Say, I don't have access to good mental health care where I live, or I'm on a wait list for VA therapy, or I've had bad experiences with providers and I'm hesitant to try again. The context matters, so you got to give them that context. Now, let me bring this all together. Everything I just told you comes down to one principle: being honest, being specific, and being complete. So honesty, right? Don't exaggerate. Don't minimize either. Tell the truth about your condition, all of it. Be specific. Don't speak in generalities. Give them key examples. Give them frequency. Give details the examiner can document. Be complete. Don't leave things out because they're personal or embarrassing or hard to talk about. Your worst days matter here. Your struggles matter. That's what gets rated. The C&P exam isn't about convincing anyone of anything. It's about painting an accurate picture of what you're actually living with. If you've been suffering in silence, this is your chance to speak on that. If you've been minimizing for years, this is your chance to be honest. If you've been holding it together with duct tape and willpower alone, this is your chance to show what that actually looks like. So don't waste the opportunity. Now, really quick, let me give you the 7 phrases to avoid one more time, all right? 1, it's a 10 out of 10. Give them a range instead. 2, I don't know why I'm even here. Instead, just be cooperative and professional. 3, my buddy told me to say yada, yada, yada. No, your story, your own words. 4, I don't remember. Nope, be honest about gaps. Frame memory issues as symptoms. 5, I'm fine, or it's not that bad. Don't do that. Instead, describe your worst days. 6, I can still work just fine. Instead, just be honest about occupational impact. And 7, I don't take medications. Instead, explain why and what you do instead. If you want to go deeper on C&P exam prep, how to describe your specific conditions, how to make sure your symptoms are documented correctly, how to support your claim with a strong NextLit or a DBQ, that's what I do every day at Xterra Health. It is a free consultation, a free records review. We help you walk into that exam room prepared. The link is in the description. One more thing. I know this C&P exam feels like a test, like you have to perform, like you have to say the wrong thing, or like if you say the wrong thing, you might lose. And yeah, kind of, that's what this whole video is about. But I don't want you to walk in there scared. I want you to walk in there prepared. You survived your service. You survived what happened over there, or what happened because of your service. You've been living with this condition every single